Okay, good afternoon. Welcome back. This is Geography 130, Lecture 10. I didn't post any slides ahead of time. I was going to work with overheads, which is what I did last year for this lecture, but then I remembered how clumsy the overheads turned out to be, or how illegible they turned out to be from the back of the room. So I quickly put everything into some slides. I don't have very many. I will go ahead and post them later if you want, but it's not actually, well, it's not a big part of the lecture. Today we're going to talk about fertility and wages. We've already broached these subjects somewhat. They were the topic of a portion of last lecture. But we want to look at it more closely today. The readings for today included a chapter from this book, Herman Daly's Beyond Growth, an article that he wrote about the northeast of Brazil and trying to use Malthus and Marx to think about fertility and sustainable development or economic growth in that part of Brazil. I also asked you to read a piece from The Economist this past fall called Falling Fertility, and we'll discuss that in a moment. Everyone got my email about the midterm, right? Are we all clear about that? So tomorrow, before 4 o'clock, I will post the questions for the midterm. It looks like there will be 4 of them. There may only be 3. You'll have to pick 2. And the instructions will be both there at the top of the page with the questions on it, in case you need them again. I also included them in the email. Basically, you have a week to write 2 essays answering those whichever 2 questions you choose to answer. There will be boxes in Dolores Dillard's office in Macomb, 507 Macomb. There will be 2 boxes. One if your GSI is Nathan, the other if your GSI is Javier. Please put your GSI's name on the cover of your exam and also put it in the correct box for us. And as I said in the email, if you wish to turn your exam in early, please do so by pushing it under my door, which is 589 Macomb, or by leaving it in my mailbox in 505 Macomb. Are there any questions about that? Okay. So before we get started, there was something that actually Nathan forwarded to me this morning that I couldn't resist. So we're going to start with the onion. U.S. economy grinds to halt as nation realizes money just a symbolic, mutually shared illusion. The U.S. economy ceased to function this week after unexpected existential remarks by Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke shocked Americans into realizing that money is, in fact, just a meaningless and intangible social construct. What began as a routine report before the Senate Finance Committee Tuesday ended with Bernanke passionately disavowing the entire concept of currency and negating in an instant the very foundation of the world's largest economy. Though raising interest rates is unlikely at the moment, the Fed will, of course, act appropriately if we, said Bernanke, who then paused for a moment, looked down at his prepared statement and shook his head in utter disbelief. You know what? It doesn't matter. None of this so-called money, really matters at all. It's just an illusion, a wide-eyed Bernanke added as he removed bills from his wallet and slowly spread them out before him. Just look at it. Meaningless pieces of paper with numbers printed on them. Worthless. According to witnesses, Finance Committee members sat in thunderstruck silence for several moments until Senator Orrin Hatch finally shouted out, "Oh my God, he's right. It's all a mirage. All of it. The money, our whole economy. It's all a lie." Oh, and this is nice. Calling it basically no more than 5 rectangular strips of paper, Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke illustrates how much $200 is actually worth. Screams then filled the Senate chamber as lawmakers and members of the press ran for the exits, leaving in their wake aisles littered with the remains of torn currency. What's the JavaScript thing doing there? Please stop that. Whoops. All right, never mind. It wants to be there. Never mind. As news of the nation's collectively held delusion spread, the economy ground to a halt with dumbfounded citizens everywhere walking out on their jobs as they contemplated the little green drawings of buildings and dead white men they once used to measure their adequacy and importance as human beings. At the New York Stock Exchange, Wednesday morning's opening bell echoed across the silent floor as the few traders who arrived for work out of habit looked up blankly at the meaningless scrolling numbers on the flashing screens above. I've spent 25 years in this room yelling, buy, buy, sell, sell, and for what? Longtime trader Michael Palermo said. All I've done is move arbitrary designations of wealth from one column to another, wasting my life chasing this unattainable hallucination of wealth. What a cruel cosmic joke, he added. I'm going home to hug my daughter. Sources at the White House said President Obama was still trying to get his head around all this and was in seclusion with his coin collection, muttering, it's just metal, over and over again. The president will be making a statement very soon. Press Secretary Robert Gibbs told reporters at the moment, though, his mind is just too blown to comment. U.S. markets closed as traders left their jobs and resolved for once to do or make something, anything of real value. All right, we will finish this just because we might as well, right? A few U.S. banks have remained open, though most teller windows are unmanned due to a lack of interest in transactions involving mere scraps of paper, or worse, decimal points in computer data signifying mere scraps of paper. At a Bank of America branch in Spokane, Washington, curious former customers wandered aimlessly through a large empty vault, while several would-be robbers of a Chase Bank in Columbus, Ohio, reportedly put their guns down and exited the building hand-in-hand with security guards, laughing over the inherent absurdity of the idea of $100 bills. Likewise, the real estate industry has all but vanished, with mortgage lenders seeing no reason to stop people from reclaiming their foreclosed-upon homes. I don't even know what we were thinking in the first place, said former banker Nathan Collins of Brandon, Mississippi, as he jimmied open a door to allow a single mother and 5 children to move back into their house. A bunch of people signed a bunch of papers, and now this family has no place to live? That's just plain ludicrous. The realization that money is nothing more than an elaborate head game seems to have penetrated the entire country. In Wilmington, Delaware, for instance, a collection agent reportedly broke down in joyful sobs when he informed a woman on the other end of the phone that he had absolutely no reason to harass her anymore, as her discovered card debt was no longer comprehensible. For some Americans, the fog of disbelief surrounding the nation's epiphany has begun to lift, with many building new lives free from the illusion of money. It's back to basics for me, Bernard Polk of Waverly, Ohio said. I'm going to till the soil for my own sustenance and get anything else I need by bartering. If I want milk, I'll pay for it in tomatoes. If I need a new hoe, I'll pay for it in lettuce. When asked hypothetically how he would pay for complicated life-saving surgery for a loved one, Polk seemed uncertain. That's a lot of vegetables, isn't it? He said. Okay, who can relate this story to the topics and themes of our class? Yeah, right here, right away. Well, Marx says that money and value are different, so this money article says that. All right, we have here a clear example of, obviously it's satirical, but it's an example of the distinction between price and value. Right? The idea that prices, denominated in money, and the money itself, are not the same thing as value. Value could be, any do or make anything of real value. Presumably those tomatoes, and the housing, and maybe that life-saving surgery, they all have value, but the value does not translate in any simple way to the price. What else? Is it true that this is a collective delusion? I hear a buzzing noise. All right, now we've got that out of the way, we can think more clearly now. Is money a collective delusion? Yeah.
Perhaps after it was debased from precious metals,
Okay, the issue of debasing currency is raised here. That the currency is simply a representation of value, rather than, or even a representation of value. Like the value of the currency itself can change, right? Yeah.
Or that, like you were saying, the value of the currency could change if it's not based on something anymore. And despite what it's based on, the fact that it was based on gold, and the gold wasn't changing. The same like a tomato is never going to change value if it's equivalent to milk.
A tomato will never change in value if it's equivalent to milk?
Like, well,
What if you leave it out for a week?
a good tomato.
A good, well, okay, 2 weeks. No, I see where you're going. I mean, until the 1970s, dollar bills were backed by gold that sat in a vault, and in theory, everyone could have gold instead of money if they wanted, right? And to that extent, you might say, well, it was a representation of gold, but the gold was real. Now, today, we no longer use that system. We are off the gold standard. The value of the money is not somehow redeemable by conversion to gold anymore. And to that extent, you might say, yes, this is a collectively held delusion, or rather, the value of the money is simply a function of the collective belief that the money has value. Yeah.
The gold still somewhat of a representation value because it's based on something that's rare but not very useful unless you're like wood.
Isn't the gold?
It's rare, but it's not necessarily useful.
Gold is something that's rare, durable, and doesn't have a lot of direct utility. And that's true of other currencies. You're right that gold is still a medium of value, insofar as, if you wish, you can save for your future by buying gold, right? That's one of many ways that you can save for your future. That doesn't yet answer the question of what is the basis of the value of the money. It just says you can buy a variety of things with money, and if they hold their value, you can hold on to them instead of money if you wish, right? Yeah.
You argue that money has its basis in labor time?
Okay. You can argue that the value of the money actually resides in the goods that you can get with it, and that the value of those goods is derived from the labor put into those goods in making them and producing them. That would be both Marx and Smith's basic formulation of what's going on here. Yeah.
I'm just thinking if you think of money as like a commodity instead of like a representation that you pay for in labor time, it would still have value. You can't just resell it.
So there is that question, the question of the labor that goes into making the money itself, the currency itself. Is that what you're getting at?
No, I was just thinking if you think of it as money not as a representation value, but like something that you pay for, but labor you can exchange for goods.
So think of money as not a representation, but as a commodity that you buy with your labor time. Well, it's true that money is, in a sense, a commodity, but it plays an interesting, unusual role as the equivalent of all the other commodities, right? And that gives it some unique qualities. Nonetheless, you're right. It is a good produced by labor, and to that extent can be seen as a commodity in that sense. But essentially, I mean, Marx is going to say that the use value of money is that it serves as an equivalent for everything else, right? That's why you make it. That's why anybody produces it, is so that it can then serve that role, which is unlike the roles played by other commodities. Yeah.
Part of the illusion that's interesting to me is connected to the labor, where there's an illusion of stability. If you only work to produce or acquire one commodity, money, which can only be converted into gold, so there's really only one set of value. Only gold and not left.
So is that another way of articulating the fact that money is the equivalent, is the commodity equivalent for all others? The illusion you're referring to is the illusion that that value is somehow stable.
Right. Also, I see an instability in acquiring only one value.
Is there instability in putting all of your eggs in the same basket, so to speak? Sort of having everything depend on, I mean, interestingly, yes. I mean, there is both a great deal of flexibility that is enabled by the fact that money is essentially disconnected from, say, gold. It means that currency exchange rates can float without there having to be all this movement of gold back and forth between the Federal Reserves of different countries, right? On the other hand, that very flexibility does introduce instability, right? So, I mean, the funny thing here, the idea that all of a sudden we all wake up and realize that money is an illusion and we stop worrying about it, as a sort of counterfactual hypothetical situation, it's entirely reasonable, I suppose. At the end of the day, though, whether the dollars that we carry around in our wallet and continue to be stable representations of value actually depends more on decisions made in international currency markets about the stability of the dollar, right? In many ways, it's about what the world's currency markets in aggregate believe to be the currency of last resort in the world economy. And we are lucky that the dollar, thus far, has served as that currency of last resort in the eyes of the Federal Reserves and financial traders of the world. If they were to decide that, in fact, the dollar was not a stable storehouse representation of value, and that they would prefer to hold their assets in euros or yuan or gold, it would have enormous implications for what our money can buy in this country. Yeah.
How much of gold, how many ounces of gold is like the $1 in
How many? Oh, when dollars were backed by gold, how much gold could you get for a dollar? Good question. Anybody know the answer to that?
I think it was $32 for an ounce of gold.
An ounce of gold for only $32. Okay, but that was in 1972 currency or something. Okay, we could look that up. I don't know off the top of my head.
So they could not change, we could change everything. Like, could they have decided to change that at some point in time and make the price of 1 ounce of gold more expensive? Essentially the same thing as gold, and now by not having that gold.
Right, but if they had unilaterally decided that we're going to change the conversion rate to gold, that would have essentially meant that they were revaluing the dollar, either upwards or downwards, right? Which, in many ways, getting off the gold standard was all about allowing the dollar's value to float without reference to gold. The whole gold standard and stuff, you can take a lot of economics classes trying to make sense of exactly how the gold standard worked compared to the current situation. But our point right now, this helps drive home the value price distinction, and it also helps drive home the nominal versus real wages and prices distinction, and the fact that the prices of goods can change depending on essentially the value of the currency in which they are expressed, and therefore you have to sort of correct for that volatility, especially if you're looking over longer time periods, right? So you have to ask what are real wages rather than just what are nominal wages. Inflation means that every year the dollar or other currencies lose a little bit of their real value relative to the goods they can purchase, and that's why we have to make these adjustments. And in the readings, well, in the Herman Daly reading, this is an important consideration, and we're going to talk a little bit later about it in the context of U.S. wages as well. Any other comments about the Onion? What is it, the nation's best news source? Okay, let's talk now about the reading from The Economist. Everyone do the reading from The Economist? It's very short. A piece called Falling Fertility. What's the gist of this article? Anyone? Am I going to have to read the whole thing? What are they commenting on? Astonishing falls in the fertility rate are bringing with them big benefits. And there's this smiling baby. This almost sickeningly happy-looking baby. I mean, the Economist is weighing in here. What do they have to say? The Economist just isn't as fun as The Onion, is it? Come on, now. We can do better than this. The Economist is happy in this article. The Economist, in its editorial anonymity, speaking as the editors, are happy. What are they happy about? Yeah. Okay. Malthus appears to be wrong. Why is he wrong? Yeah.
Just that you can really predict that the process of industrialization kind of separates us from the food population disparity that we predicted.
Okay. More specifically, what are they remarking on? What's the piece of news that they're trying to drive home here? It's right there in like the fourth paragraph. Today's fall in fertility. Second paragraph. The fertility rate of half the world is now 2.1 or less. The magic number that is consistent with a stable population and is usually called the replacement rate of fertility. Sometime between 2020 and 2050, the world's fertility rate will fall below the global replacement rate. That's what they're excited about. And to that extent, it might not be so much that Malthus is wrong as that Malthus's concerns are no longer warranted. That's their contention. He first published his essay in 1798. His timing was unfortunate, for something started happening around then which made nonsense of his ideas. As industrialization swept through what is now the developed world, fertility fell sharply, first in France, then in Britain, then throughout Europe and America. When people got richer, families got smaller. And as families got smaller, people got richer. Hence the happiness of the economist. Yes?
It just seems to me like the happiness is similar to what people whisper in global warming because there's this huge winter storm in Washington. Not looking at big picture, and not still theory still hasn't been disproved as to whether or not at peak points can reach us. Because the smaller families, smaller households, they're still spending more energy.
Okay. There are a lot of reasons why we might critique the economist's optimism about this. Although I think really all they're trying to draw attention to is that the fertility rate is falling. I mean, they go on and they say, today's fall in fertility is both very large and very fast. Poor countries are racing through the same demographic transition as rich ones, starting at an earlier stage of development and moving more quickly. The transition from a rate of 5 to that of 2, which took 130 years to happen in Britain, took just 20 years in South Korea. Mothers in developing countries today can expect to have 3 children. Their mothers had 6. In some countries, the speed of decline in the fertility rate has been astonishing. In Iran, it dropped from 7 in 1984 to 1.9 in 2006, and to just 1.5 in Tehran. That is about as fast as social change can happen. I'm not sure that last statement is correct, but it might be just about as fast as you can expect fertility rates to fall. Now, what this brings up and what we want to talk about today is what exactly are the mechanisms by which fertility rates fall. We saw last time that contraception is extremely important as one of these mechanisms. But that begs the question, well, what causes people to use contraception? What makes it possible, in addition to simply having it be available or having it exist at all, what makes it such that people actually use it? And even if you have access to contraception, you could still decide that you want to have 5 kids, right? Even if you have contraception. You might use it until you want those 5 kids. And then, bang, 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 you might have your 5 kids. So why do people decide that instead of having 5, they'll have 2? Yeah. Okay, some of the having 5 kids is a lot of work. Yeah, I don't even have 5 kids, and I know that's true. Some of the explanations provided in Livy-Bacci. What were those? I mean, it's like this. A lot of work. What's another way of articulating that? Yeah. You need a lot of resources to raise a kid. And interestingly, the richer the country you live in, the more resources you appear to need, or rather, the more stuff you buy to raise your kid, and the more money you need to buy that stuff. Yeah. Okay, in a modern economy or an industrialized economy, you aren't as likely to be able to put your kid to work as young an age as was the case in an agricultural economy, right? It was entirely ordinary for very young children to work on farms, family farms or otherwise. Whereas, given that it took some legislation to keep them from being employed in factories, and there are still places in the world where they are employed in factories. But nonetheless, children in developed contexts are more likely to not start earning a wage or working towards the reproduction of the household until a later age. Yeah, do you have something? Okay. In a lot of social settings, children are the way you take care of yourself in your retirement, right? The more children you have, the more you can expect them to help take care of you when you get old. In more urban industrialized settings, there are other ways of looking after your needs once you stop working, whether it's Social Security or personal savings, and the number of children is no longer a way of protecting your long-term interests. In fact, it may just be a long-term drain on your pocketbook, right? Your resources, yeah.
Sounds like family is a really easy metaphor to use. It's really easy to rationalize why having a big family is good. In places where education isn't necessarily or like a big education system or Western values. So family is a really easy metaphor.
Family is an easy metaphor by which it's not just a metaphor. I mean, it's the unit through which most of these economic outcomes are mediated, right?